What's up, guys? Hope you're having a great Saturday. In this live stream, the Finance After Dark live stream, we're not only going over 5 debt payoff strategies, but we're also going over 5 budgeting strategies. And we're going to talk through how I'm ranking them. And who am I, you're probably asking? My name's Chris. I've been a corporate accountant for over a decade. I'm now a money coach helping people in their own personal finances. And yeah, I have a pretty strong opinion on these 5 actually for each, the debt payoff and the budgeting. So let's just kind of jump right into it because there's a lot to go into today. And like the name says, this is Finance After Dark, so it is a little late, at least for me. So first, I'd like to kind of get your take on it, whether you're live now with me in the chat or you're watching this afterwards. Like, what kind of debt payoff strategies have you tried in the past? And what kind of budgeting strategies have you tried in the past or are currently trying? I'd love to hear like kind of what's working, what's not working for you guys. Because again, this is why I'm making these kind of videos. This is why I'm streaming. This is why I'm doing what I do to help you answer your questions. And this this branded live stream that I'm kind of doing, branded meaning like I just put a name on it, not that I have a brand behind it. Finance After Dark, I just committed to, I told myself that I'm just going to try doing this every single night through June 30th and just see like kind of what happens. So if this kind of content resonates with you, or if this is something that you're looking to get more information in, definitely hit the subscribe button and you'll be here for another month at least, right? Oreo, how's it going? How's your evening? So we're gonna jump right into first with the 5 debt payoff strategies, and we're going to be going from my least favorite strategy, paying off debt, to my most favorite. And the first strategy is kind of a cop-out, to be very honest with you. The first debt payoff strategy, or I would say my least favorite debt payoff strategy, is not having a debt payoff strategy. Now, yeah, that probably sounds like a cop-out, right? Where it's like, well, what is that? What are we even doing here? In my experience, I've paid off $43,000 of debt in just over a year, and now I'm coaching people to not have the same result, but like, get their debt down in an orderly fashion. And it's always surprising when people don't necessarily have a plan. And what I mean by not having a plan is if you're making minimum payments or worse every month, to me, that's not having a plan. Because minimum payments, to me, in my opinion, like when they say the word minimum payments, it's like literally the least you can do. And I guess in somewhat it's a plan, but I have a debt payment calculator that I share with these people that I coach, and that's completely free as well. But what it usually shows is that when you do minimum payments, it takes so much longer and you're paying so much more interest with just minimum payments. And people think they're doing the thing. It's like, oh, I have a bill due, and they just look at like the minimum payment. It's like, I'm paying this, and I'm getting it over with. But there's so much more. Like there needs to be a little more strategy, and a couple of the ones that we're going to talk about later in the list, numbers 4 and 5, are the preferred options in my opinion. But not having a strategy is like either you're making minimum payments or you're doing worse than that, where maybe you make a minimum payment 1 month and then 1 month you don't make all the minimum payments, and you're doing this whole like seesaw thing going back and forth whenever you have an opportunity to like pay, right? And I understand it might be hard, like if you have a lot of debt every month that you have to pay, it might be hard to make that get to those numbers that you have to get to. But that's where the budgeting strategies might come into play a little later on in this live stream. So hopefully that can help you. So let me know if you're watching this now. What kind of, do you have a debt payment strategy right now? Are you making minimum payments? Are you making more than the minimum payments? I would love to know, but let's just jump right into the my next least favorite debt payoff strategy, and that is balance transfers. Balance transfers, basically when you move your credit card balance to a new credit card, and typically that comes with like a different interest rate And how they get you is like usually you can transfer it over and get a 0% interest rate on, 12, 18 months, whatever. And I can see why that's very enticing for people if you have a large balance and on a credit card and you're still using it. And instead of paying, I don't know, 25%, 29% on a credit card, you roll it over to 0% and you hope and pray for the best that you can kind of get it down in that 18-month period. But there are so many fees attached to this, guys. And I would, like, if you have any sort of, if you work with any sort of like bank, meaning like if you have a bank account or you have a credit card or something, I'm sure if you go to your email and you just type in balance transfer, you're going to come up with a whole crap load of emails from all these companies trying to persuade you to do the balance transfer because it's such a benefit to the banks. Yeah, there's a slight benefit to the person, like at least a lot of people think there's a benefit, but I got one recently, and I kind of wanted to share the details of the offer that they're sharing. So this is Bank of America, and the way that they phrased it, which is so funny, I wish I could share my screen right now, but it says, save money on interest in like this big block text, and meaning like, wow, it's like someone could open that like, oh wow, I have a lot of interest. I'd love to save money on interest, right? Save money on interest, and then to help pay down your balance faster with the Bank AmeriCard credit card. Okay, so what the offer is 0% interest rate for 18 billing cycles. After the intro offer ends, a variable interest rate that's currently 15 to 25% will apply. So basically, if you don't pay off the credit card in 18 months, you're now going to get an interest rate of 15 to 25%. A 3% intro balance transfer fee for the first 60 days your account is open will apply. So basically, if you transfer over a certain dollar amount, that dollar amount is going to get hit with a 3% fee pretty much immediately within the first 60 days, okay? After the intro balance transfer fee offer ends, so that 18-month period, the fee for future balance transfers is 4%. Meaning, and I know for a fact because I've worked with people that do this, that people get in this balance transfer cycle where they go on a balance transfer and then they're not able to pay off the credit card within that, say, 18-month period, and they roll it over to another one. But guess what's happening? The bank, the credit card, is getting an additional 4% on your balance. So you're paying them 4% of what you have remaining to kind of roll it over again. And while, yes, you do go to 0%, it's a vicious cycle. It's like you're literally on a hamster wheel because now you have to continually do this until you pay off your credit card. And if you just don't pay it off, you just keep going and going and going, you're giving them the 3% intro, balance transfer fee, and then the 4% to transfer to another thing, and it's just like you can't get off of it because if you get off of it, you're going to be stuck again with like probably 25+% of interest rate. So for me, I don't like this at all, and I understand what the allure that people would see this and they would glob onto it, and I definitely know why my inbox is full of these requests from people, but it's just something that I don't really think, I personally don't think people should be doing. Have you ever done a balance transfer? It's okay if you have. This is a no judgment. This is a judgment-free zone here at the Finance After Dark live stream. I just like to open up conversations and have people, I want people to start talking about money more. I think it's just helpful. I found that, me growing up, my parents really never talked about money, and it was something I kind of had to learn on my own. And I really want to kind of give back. That's why I'm literally making this content at 9:20 p.m. Until whenever this is going to go. And I'm going to commit to doing this through, at least June 30th. I kind of want to do this every day. I want people to understand all their options, maybe think a little differently. I don't come on here to change people's opinions. I just want to give them a different perspective. I think that would just be super helpful for a lot of people. And one last thing with the balance transfers, I don't know, this might trigger people, but I consider this similar to getting like liposuction, where the benefit of liposuction is there, right? It's very obvious. But if the habits don't change, then you're just going to run into the same problem. So the balance transfer, it's like if a habit doesn't change in making real progress of trying to pay off your credit card, if you just keep the habit has to go away. It's just like liposuction. If you get liposuction, then you eat pizza and cake still. It's like, well, guess what's going to happen? I mean, it's very, very obvious, right? So just something to think about. My next, how am I phrasing this? My next least favorite debt payoff strategy is consolidation loans, debt consolidation. Okay, it's very common, very, very common. This one's in the middle because the next two I actually love a lot. So I understand why people do debt consolidation. It makes a ton of sense, especially if you look at all your debts, and you have a lot of debts maybe in the high teens or 20% interest rates, and you're able to get a low teen, like a 12% or mid teen, maybe 15%, and you're able to get like a significant change in the interest rate, and it's going to get significantly better. I understand why people do that. Depending on your personal situation, there will be, credit, your credit will get worse because of it. And the reason why I also don't love it is you're basically trading one problem for the same problem. So it's like, okay, I have, I don't know, let's say $40,000 of debt, and I'm basically just going to take all these little pieces and organize it into this one, and I still have $40,000 of debt. The interest rate's better. So in theory, you'd be able to pay it off faster. So I totally understand. I totally understand this one. So let me know. Have you ever tried debt consolidation? If you have debt, I'd honestly love to know. It is like, it is a strategy, and it could be implemented well. But it could also just be a situation where you're just basically taking from your right pocket and you're putting it in your left pocket. It's like kind of this, sometimes can be the same thing. So we're going to go into my next two favorite here, and I'm kind of going to talk about them at the same time. And maybe you've heard these strategies talked about in other places, but the two strategies are the debt snowball method and the debt avalanche method. So let's talk about the debt snowball method first. Basically, with this strategy, what we want to do is rank our debts in order of lowest balance remaining to highest balance. So we're going to be prioritizing the smallest loan that we have. And how this works is you take all your loans, you look at your minimum payments, you make minimum payments on all of them, and then any and all extra money that you have towards your debt, you apply to the smallest loan. And what ends up happening is, because you're attacking the smallest loan, you're likely going to get a good feedback loop. You're going to get smaller wins faster. So let's say you have, a $1,000 debt, a $5,000 debt, a $10,000 debt, and a $20,000 debt. You would rank them in that order, and you'd be able to knock out that $1,000 debt probably, within a couple months, a few months, whatever. And it's like, oh, wow, this is awesome. I'm making progress. And then the next one's kind of right there. It's like, okay, the 5K, maybe at that point it's down to 4,500. It's like, okay, maybe this one will take a little longer, but how it works and why it's called the snowball method is all the money that you're applying to the smallest loan, once that's paid off, you immediately move that to the next lowest, right? So if you were making $250 payments to the $1,000 loan, once that's paid off, that $250, you don't put it in, going out to eat. You don't put it into anything else except for the next smallest loan. So you would put it in that $5,000 loan, the example that I gave. And then you would add that $250 to the, minimum payment of the $5,000, right? And you keep stacking and stacking and stacking, and you gain good momentum. This is really good for, again, it's probably more like the psychological strategy. where you're getting like a nice mental boost, like, okay, like things are happening, things are moving, I'm doing this. And this is actually the strategy that my wife and I used to pay off $43,000 of debt in just over a year. And we didn't even really understand that we were doing, like, we weren't intentionally doing the debt snowball method. We were just kind of doing a thing where I can't even believe we had 12 loans, 12 different loans. So I had some in my name, she had some in her name. We had some shared together. It was just like ridiculous. And we had maybe 4 or 5 that were under, I don't know, $1,200, $1,500. And we're like, it would be so cool if we could just get rid of that. Was like a third of our loan, like total loans, not the dollar amount, but the total loans. So it was like, if we can go from 12 loans to 8 loans in, I don't know, a few months, that would be a huge win. So that was our goal, and we just kept stacking and hitting the smallest loans, and eventually, like, the snowball in the last couple, the amount of money that we were rolling into the last loan was insane, and it just felt really, really good. Now, the other strategy, the debt avalanche method, had we used that, the benefit to that is that we're attacking the interest rate. So you will definitely pay off the loans faster, because the interest is the absolute killer when it comes to debt. So if we're paying that off faster, obviously we're going to be paying off the debt faster. So same kind of idea, except this time we're prioritizing the highest interest rate to the lowest interest rate. So a lot of the people that I'm working with inside my free personal finance community use the debt avalanche method because they a lot of times have a higher credit card interest rate. So we're talking 25+%. And it just makes more, the math makes sense to use debt avalanche sometimes. But again, if you are maybe new at this, or I don't know, you would think you would get discouraged if it took too long, kind of thing, then the debt snowball method is absolutely for you. But if you just like, I don't know, don't care, or want to just be over with faster, the debt avalanche is better. So the same thing applies, where we're paying minimum payments to all our loans, and then any extra and all the extra money that we're putting towards our debt each month goes towards the highest interest rate. And actually, down in the description is I have a link to the free personal finance community, and in there I have my tools as well. A budget template, I have a debt payment calculator. Everything's free, including the community, including my time inside the community. And the way you can play around with the debt payment calculator is so cool, because you can literally plug in your numbers. You can change back and forth between different strategies. So let's say you wanted to see the difference between debt snowball and the debt avalanche method. You can change the amount of money that you're paying every month. So you're like, okay, I'm only doing minimums, so let me plug that in. But then it's like, okay, what would happen if I put in an extra $100 a month, an extra $200 a month? What would happen if I missed a payment and I was $200 less, right? So it gives you all the math. It shows you how much interest you're paying on each of the line items for every scenario. It shows you what your debt-free date is. I think if you take away anything from this live stream tonight, it's find your debt-free date. Because you have to at least know, like, okay, what is our starting point based on what we're doing now? Like, what the criteria that we're entering. So it's like, okay, if we're just making minimum payments, it's going to take us this long. Like, okay, how do we improve this? Because debt is the least efficient thing that we can be doing with our money, like the least efficient. So how's everyone doing in here so far? How's everyone doing? What are our thoughts on that? So just to kind of summarize, we have the 5 debt payoff strategies from my least favorite to my favorite are: 1, not having a strategy. That's pretty clear, right? 2, balance transfers. Watch out for those. I don't recommend those. Okay, we got balloons coming on the stream. I think because I did this, maybe a peace sign. 3, we have consolidation loans. Don't love them, don't hate them, okay? 4 is the debt snowball method. And really, this is kind of like, for me, it's not 4 and 5. It's, 4A, 4B, whatever. Like, I would be perfectly fine if someone came up to me and said, I'm doing debt snowball method or I'm doing debt avalanche method. And I would say, yes, the debt avalanche method is the more cost efficient. Like you're going to pay the debt off faster. But if you walked up to me in the street and we had never met before, and without even giving me your situation, maybe without even looking at the math, and you're like, hey, which one should I use? I would just tell you to probably do the debt snowball method. I just think you're going to stick with it because of like the quicker wins that you'll most likely be getting. And I think that's more important than like ramrodding the avalanche and then it taking forever and you getting frustrated or something and you fall off the wagon. I don't know, right? Stuff could happen. Stuff could definitely happen. All right. So we're going to move over to 5 budgeting strategies. And again, I'm going to kind of take the concept of like, these are 5 budgeting strategies that I've used personally in my life. I've been budgeting for over 10 years, guys, something like that. It's insane. And it basically just started with me not knowing how much money was in my bank account over 10 years ago. And that was very embarrassing for me. And I don't want that to happen again. And I don't want that to happen to anyone here. So basically throughout that process, I tried to flip over every rock possible. That's not the saying. You know what I'm trying to say. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I tried everything. I tried like anything that seemed like a decent strategy. I would just try it and see if it worked for me. And I would recommend that for you. Like, as we kind of go through these, if you're like, no, I don't know about that. I don't know. Give it a shot. Like if something that if nothing's really been working yet and you hear of something different that like maybe could work, but you're like, oh, I don't know, it sounds a little harder, I would give it a shot. Because I see every month as a new opportunity to improve yourself. I've tried avalanche, but snowball feels more productive. Awesome. No, that's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, the avalanche can be a little depending on like what your higher interest rates are, like if they're a large dollar amount as well, it can feel like you're just like not making any progress at all. So the snowball, both are great. I love that the snowball feels more productive. Great. So you should absolutely be doing that. I love that. Thanks for sharing. That's really helpful. So yeah, let's get into these 5 budgeting strategies. And again, I'm ranking these from least favorite to favorite. And this is just my opinion. I've literally done all of these. And I think for most of these, I have like pros and cons that I kind of want to go over. So there are good, even to this first one here, which is the cash only budgeting. Now that's pretty clear kind of what that is. Basically, we're only using cash. And the whole point is to avoid plastic. Let me see. Sorry, there was a stat. Let me see if I can pull it up really quickly. Okay, so I'm on chase.com. They did like a survey or like a little report. And in 2023, okay, so this poll was conducted by Forbes Advisor. 52% reported that they are likely to make an impulse purchase when using a credit card versus 24% cash. And 58% cited credit cards as the payment method most likely to entice them to spend more money. So essentially, like, you get the card in your hand and you're just like, I don't know what it is. And I don't know who to give credit to, because I heard someone say this and I was like, that is so true. When you give your credit card, let's just say like before automated checkout, right? You would go to the cashier, you'd hand them your card and they give you the card back, right? Whereas if you go with cash, you hand them the cash and they don't give you anything back, right? Because it's like, that's the trade. It's like the cash for the stuff. And then when you go with a credit card, it's like, okay, I get the stuff and I get my card back, right? And then you like look at the end of the month like, oh God, I spent so much money. But I think the cash only budgeting is great for maybe, I don't want to insult anyone here, but like a beginner to budgeting, or someone who's like pretty new with like getting energized about trying to change their personal finances. Um, like someone who knows that they have an overspending problem or living paycheck to paycheck. And like I said earlier, maybe try something new. Um, so yeah, obviously the goal of this is to avoid plastic. Um, so how this works basically is so there's certain things that, you know, at this point in society, there's going to be things that you just probably can't pay for in cash. Like if you have a mortgage, you're probably not going to your mortgage company and going to their front door and handing them cash. So obviously there's going to be things that you can't do this with, but how this works is, or I should say how I did this when I was doing this, was every week I would go to the ATM and I would get cash out, and that would be my like spending money for the week. So I don't know, let's just say I would take out $200 and I had to do, you know, groceries, gas, and whatever other stuff that happened in the week on that budget. And let me tell you, it was pretty effective. Like, you know what's in your wallet for sure. And also it's like you really like consider, it's like, ooh, it's already like Wednesday, I only have $40 left. It's either like I do this thing or I do this thing, right? It really makes you think, and it's actually quite helpful. Um, and it really gives you an idea of like how to plan out the week. In my opinion, I thought it was very helpful. The reason why it's my least favorite is it is a little intense, where like there's a lot of logistics involved. Now you have to go to the ATM every week, which is just like a pain in the ass. Like it's 2025, you know what I mean? Like, no, who's doing that on a regular basis? But also it's like now you're carrying around cash, like a lot of cash, at all times, so that can be not great either. Um, but I do think it has its benefits. I thought it was great. It was just I stopped doing it because of like the pain in the ass thing. I was like, this is so annoying. Like if it's the day that I have to go to the ATM or something, and I don't know, something happened in life, right? Or I was late for work, or like whatever the thing is, and it just like added this extra element of stress, to be a little honest with you. But the fact of budgeting with the cash in my wallet was helpful. So let's move on to number two. And this is something called bi-weekly budgeting. Um, and I wish I was set up to share my screen right now, and I'm not. But here's what I want you to think about. If you get paid like twice a month or bi-weekly, whatever, my wife and I have sort of shifted how we think about our finances, and we organize our finances based around when we get paid. So for most people, the most expensive thing that they have in their life is the roof over their head, right? So that's their rent or their mortgage. And in our case, our mortgage gets taken out at the beginning of every month, and that's when my wife and I get paid. So we both we have 9 to 5 jobs. We both get paid at the like end, beginning and the middle, like most people, right? So as that mortgage payment comes out, our two checks are going in the bank account, and for a while now, those two checks have been higher than the mortgage payment. So it's a net win for that pay period. And I'm just getting all these emojis here popping up. And then everything else in our life, we take out of our bank account during the second pay period, and we're able to do that we actually organize our finances by using credit cards. We use credit cards to organize our finances, and that way we pay the credit cards in the middle of the month, right when we get paid. We pay off our credit cards every month, and it's just like life stuff. And that works out too. So it's like, okay, we pay our credit cards, we'll call it the 15th of the month, right? So that money comes out of the bank, but at the same time, our money from our paychecks is going in the bank account. And for most of the last, I don't know, 5, 6 years, that has been a net positive as well. Now, recently it's been a little more challenging. We've got two kids, they're both in daycare. Like there's stuff happening, right? Everyone has stuff. Um, so sometimes that's like neutral, sometimes that's positive now, sometimes it's negative, whatever. But like at the end of the month, because of the mortgage one, we're always seemingly net positive, which is great because then we can apply more money to our financial goals. Um, so it's another strategy to think about where it's like, how can I organize? So instead of like, because I work with people a lot, and they're, you know, people that are trying to get through the month and figure everything out, but they're not taking like that step back and looking at it. And this works pretty effectively for people that also, if you get paid weekly, this works pretty well too. You can kind of make budgets based on your weekly income, and then you can kind of start to see like when stuff comes out of your bank account because you'll know pretty quickly. So it's like, okay, if your rent or mortgage comes out on the first and you're getting paid weekly, your check for that first week probably isn't going to cover the rent or mortgage, right? So you probably need like multiple checks in the month to be able to cover that first week payment. So then you have to really start planning ahead and figuring it out that way. So that could be helpful too. Um, but yeah, so the reason why this is my next least favorite is again like kind of the intense factor where it's like now you're budgeting. It's hard enough for me to get people to budget like for the month, and it's like, well, I'm not going to budget for 2 weeks. That's intense. I don't know. So it is a little more like uh kind of next level. I would say this shouldn't be like the first budgeting strategy that you try, but I found it very helpful to sort of organize all of our finances based on when we get paid, and that way the goal would be to like every paycheck to have a net win. And then so for a while my wife and I were having 24 small wins in our finances every single year just by organizing everything. So two a month, right? We'd be net positive. Again, recently not so much with that middle one. That's kind of fluctuating with like, man, kids are expensive. Let me know if you guys can relate to that because kids are expensive. All right, number 3. Ooh, this is a good one. Let me just get a drink. My throat is like dying. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make it to June 30th. So if you're just joining me, I don't know. I'm starting up this live stream. I'm calling it Finance After Dark, and I'm literally live streaming at night. And I plan on doing this for at least through June 30th, every single night. I don't know how I'm going to be able to do that, but I'm making a commitment. I want to see what happens. So if you're interested in kind of what I've been talking about so far, or personal finance, or you're looking to make a change in your personal finances or a strategy or whatever, make sure to subscribe. You'll get notifications when I go live, and we can hang out at night. This is great. My third, my next least favorite budgeting strategy, and actually the next 3, I love all of them, to be honest with you. It was hard to kind of like rank these. But I'll explain why this is kind of in the third bracket. It's called the 50-30-20 budgeting rule. So it's kind of more of a framework than like a budgeting strategy. So maybe that's why it's third. But how this works is, okay, we make income, right? So every month, whatever our income is, that's like 100%, right? So if you make $5,000 in a month, that is 100% of your income, right? The 50-30-20 says that 50% of that income should, in theory, doesn't have to be exact, go towards your need items. So your housing, utilities, your groceries, like things that us humans literally like, we need to kind of live on. We need that stuff to live. 30% of it goes towards your want items. So think things like buying stuff on Amazon, going out to the movies, Do you guys still do that? I don't know. But like, yeah, streaming services, going out to restaurants, things like that. Like we don't need any of that stuff. That's just like good want items. And then 20% of our income should be going towards financial goals, right? So in step one of this, for this to work, you have to be very honest about kind of where the line is of a need item and a want item for you. Like, no, I mean, Netflix is great and all, but it's not a need item. You know what I'm saying? Like going to the diner, a couple times a week or something, that's not a need item. No one needs to do that, right? So we have to just be honest with that. And I think, I think there's going to be kind of two ways that people would fail using this strategy. And first of all, it's not like hard and fast 50, 30, 20. It's just kind of a ballpark. So I think it's a good exercise for you to do. You see, okay, here's how much money I'm making. Okay, if I were to break out all of my expense categories based on need, want, and financial goal, what's the breakout, right? And it's just a good exercise. Yeah, if you're like, if your need item is 45% or 55%, like I wouldn't sweat that too much, right? If you're in line with everything, I think that's great. And by the way, if you're putting 20% of your income towards a financial goal, you have to, I don't know the percentage, but you have to be at like a top tier percentage. I can't imagine that there's too high of a percentage of people that are actually doing that, because in the United States, something like 50 something percent of people wouldn't be able to handle a $1,000 emergency that popped up. The average debt, I think, per individual, not including mortgages, is $22,000. So that's, credit cards, student loans, car loans, etc. So if you're putting 20% towards your debt, saving money, a retirement goal, like, you're winning. So just keep that in mind. So yeah, be honest what a need and a want item is, because I see all the time that there's people that want to make a change in their finances, and they really, really want it. And what happens is, like, all the stuff just kind of gets bundled into like one thing, because it's just like you go through the month and life happens and you're working and whatever, like all this stuff, right? We all have different stuff going on, and life can be challenging, right? And then you get to the end of the month, you're like, oh my God, I wanted to pay off debt this month. I wanted to save more money this month. Where did all my money go? Like, what is happening? Let me know if you guys can relate to that. But I think that one way to kind of flip this on its head is, the problem with this like budgeting rule, I think it's great, but the problem with it is literally ordered 50, 30, 20. So it's psychologically telling us like, okay, let's focus on the need items, then the want items, then the financial goals. So basically it's like ignoring or deprioritizing the financial goals to last. And I think that's a big problem that I used to make back in the day, and I think a lot of other people make, where it's like, okay, all the leftover money is going to go to the financial goals. What if we flipped it? What if we flipped it to where, okay, like, obviously we still need the need items, but like, what if we automated financial goals? So it's basically like those are happening first. So now what if we do like 50%? So we do the 50 need, we do the 20 financial goals, and then whatever's left is the want items. That would be pretty cool. Now, it would probably take a certain kind of person to want to sacrifice the want items, right? Because that could be your fun and leisure. And again, we want to be able to sustain something, right? We don't want to be like a flash in the pan and go hard at something for a couple months and then just kind of teeter back, and you're going back and forth. We want to be able to sustain it. So if having like limited want items isn't enjoyable for you, then maybe that's not an idea for you. But just something to kind of think about. How is this resonating for you guys? Any like thoughts, questions on any of these so far? So just to kind of summarize the budgeting, the different strategies here. The first one that I mentioned was cash only budgeting. The second one I mentioned was bi-weekly budgeting, and then we just talked about 50-30-20. So the one now that I want to get into, and I think this one's very important. It kind of ties in with the 50-30-20 and kind of ties into the last part of what I was saying with that. But the budgeting strategy is pay yourself first. And what that means is automating our future, which means putting money towards financial goals before we do anything else. So imagine you get your paycheck, it goes in your bank account, and then in 1 second you put X percentage of that income, that paycheck, towards paying off your debt, saving money, retirement, right? And every time you did that, even if it was 20%, again, you would be like a financial god if you were doing that. Let's say 10%, 5%, whatever. If you just did that automatically, so if you made, I don't know, $2,000 in a paycheck and you just instantly had 10% taken out, so you instantly take out $200, you put it towards stuff, and you do that every paycheck, I think that would be pretty powerful. And then you, instead of having $2,000 in your bank account, you have $1,800, right, for that paycheck to work with. And now you have less options of like how you can spend it, because it's like, well, I haven't really paid for my need items yet. Like you know what I mean? And it makes you think more, and it makes you prioritize it. And I think that if you feel like you're struggling or you're not progressing, it might be because you're not spending enough time thinking about your financial goals. And that can sting a little bit, because this was me. Like I was living paycheck to paycheck. I was in tens of thousands of dollars of debt. I had no financial goals, and I literally was just trying to like stay busy in life. But like the stuff I was staying busy with like was not anything that was progressing me forward. It was just like, hey, let me like go do this thing with my friends. Hey, let me hang out with my family here. Hey, let me do all this stuff. And it's like, what happens is like when you go to do stuff with people, like stuff costs money and you just like keep getting yourself stuck. Like fun was a priority for me back in the day. And, you know, not that I still don't have fun, but like I prioritized it too much, I think. And I keep drawing lines in the sand, guys, every time. Where it's like, why am I doing this? No, okay, never again. It happens all the time. It still happens. And I think if you, paid yourself first, meaning like if you put money aside for savings, you were more aggressive with your debt payoff, and then you just kind of figure out the rest of it later. It's like, okay, I got to pay this debt. I have my need items, and then like whatever's left over is left over, and we'll have to play around with that and figure it out. But I think that's just kind of a good exercise. And this way, you're with this strategy, like your spending is more proactive than reactive. Because I can imagine that maybe a lot of you watching, again, this was me back in the day, like the example I gave where I was working with people that everything just kind of got thrown into one bucket instead of thinking about them separately. And then the end of the month happens. It's like, where'd all my money go? And you're like reacting to everything instead of like thinking ahead and being a little more proactive. So just some food for thought there. So do we have any questions here? Any thoughts? Where are you guys from in the world? Like, let me know. I'm on the east coast of the United States right now, so it's nearing on 10 p.m. Where are you guys in the world watching? I'd love to chat about that. And let's get right into the last budgeting strategy. And this is probably my favorite. And and what this is called is the zero-based budgeting strategy. Basically, to say it simply, it's like whatever we make every month, we need to push out the door. Meaning like whatever comes in our bank account, we want out of our bank account. And that might sound uh, like you have no money at the end of the month. And technically, yes, but hear me out for 1 second. So let's say, I don't know, we'll use the $5,000. Let's say you make $5,000 in a month. And how this strategy works is we know at the beginning of the month that we're going to be making $5,000. So we need every single dollar of that $5,000 to be planned for, so budgeted, right? And then as the month's going on, we may need to move some stuff around and things like that. But what, how am I trying to say this? Like, once we know that every dollar is accounted for, the whole point of that is like also, so we don't want to just budget for our need items like our fixed stuff, the rent, the mortgage. We don't, groceries. We want to budget for all that, but we also want to budget for our financial goals. So that's why I'm saying if 5,000 comes in, we want to push 5,000 out. So let's say your expenses cost, I don't know, $4,500, and then you have $500 that you put towards saving, paying off debt, etc. That's what I mean, with everything that comes in goes out. So think about it like, even if you're saving money, think about it as like it goes from your checking account to a savings account that you have. And then that's where you're building up your emergency fund, or you're putting money towards your future, like a retirement or your kids' future education. So it's not like you're not spending it wastefully. It's going out of your account, but it's turning it into an asset somewhere else. Does that make sense? So what I kind of recommend, because when I explain this to people and they get kind of confused about, it's like, well, I don't want to have no money at the end of the month. So what I think is very important is to, in your checking account, having a buffer of whatever you think would be good. So I like the idea of like $1,000 in there. And if you wanted to use that, if you were disciplined enough to see it in your checking account and not spend it, then I think that's great. But if you're not disciplined and you know that you're gonna, if you see $1,000 in your checking account, you're gonna spend it, I would put it somewhere else, somewhere harder to see. And either way, one of those could be your emergency funds, or at the very least, it's a buffer in your checking account. That way, if you have 5,000 in, and then you have a rough month where you're $5,400 out, you don't want to go below zero in your checking account, right? So we need to have a buffer. So I kind of say that just, make sure that you understand that. Mark from Virginia, how's it going? Yeah, I'm from Connecticut. Yeah, so nearing on 10 p.m. here. But does that make sense, guys? The zero-based budgeting. I like to think about it like I like this example. So sorry if you've heard this before, but like a concert where, okay, the arena, like you've been to a sporting event or a concert or some just big event, right? In an arena, let's say that it holds 5,000 seats, representing, each seat represents $1 of the $5,000 that you're making. When you enter the arena, you give someone a ticket, right? And you already know where you're sitting. So I want you to think about that like for your finances, right? We want every dollar walking into our arena to know where they're sitting. And I think it's just, again, it's a proactive measure instead of a reactive measure. And I think that would just be very, very helpful for everyone. Okay. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, my voice is like absolutely shot. So a couple things here. One, I'm gonna be doing this live stream every single night, Finance After Dark. We're gonna see what happens. If you guys like this, smash the like button on this. I make these live streams for people like you who are still watching this, who are trying to like figure out their finances or just like talking about finances. I want to make talking about money and talking about our finances more common. So even if you are like, you're feeling good with your finances, you just want to come hang out, talk money, talk finance, like that's awesome. But yeah, I'm committing to every day through June, which sounds insane right now, but I want to do that. And if you're interested in that, make sure to subscribe. You're going to get notified when I go live and everything like that. And we can just come here and hang out. I also have a free personal finance community. I'm helping people save more money, pay off debt, and just build up their personal finance foundation. So I'm taking free strategy calls in this community for any new member that joins. Everything inside the community is free. So the tools, the training, the resources, the community, even my time. So I'm taking not just the strategy calls, but like other coaching calls, and that's all completely free. I've never asked for a dime from anyone. So if that interests you, the link is down in the description of this live stream, or it's just on my channel page. It's the only link at the top there. So if that interests you, awesome. If not, hopefully I'll see you tomorrow night, guys. This was